It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the films of September 26, 2003. We've got 5 films to look at today, so we have a lot to get to here. Let's not waste any more time. Let's just go ahead and jump on into it. We've got Sean William Scott and Dwayne Johnson, a.k.a. The Rock, in Peter Berg's The Rundown. The movie where Arnold Schwarzenegger literally pats Dwayne Johnson and tells him, "You're the next big action star." And he was right, eventually, after a couple of misfires, a couple of years after this movie came out. But he did eventually become a big action star. He plays a bounty hunter here who travels to Brazil to retrieve his employer's son, played by Sean William Scott. And, of course, you have Christopher Walken involved as the antagonist. Rosario Dawson's also in here as well. And chaos and hilarity ensues. And I guess you can kind of say this is in the same vein as something like a Romancing the Stone. Meets a little bit of not War of the Roses, that's a completely different movie, Jewel and Nile, which, it's not really a romantic comedy. It does have its elements, a little bit of a romantic comedy at times, but the movie is still a ton of fun. This is the movie, I think, that woke everybody up and made people realize that, Dwayne Johnson's got a bright acting future ahead of him. I mean, this is a guy that, like I said, there's literally a scene where Schwarzenegger, who was literally there on the set of the film and was having lunch with The Rock, and Peter Berg said, "Hey, do you want to appear in the film?" And Schwarzenegger said, "Yeah." And then 15 minutes in, he was on the set, and it was actually the last film he did before he eventually became governor of California. Like I said, it sets the tone for him to become the next big action star. And Sean William Scott in here is pretty good too. Like, he doesn't get the proper respect I think he deserves. I mean, he's a guy that I think really, like, there was a time when he was trying to get out of that Stifler mode, and there was a lot of comedies he was in that didn't work. I already talked about a couple of them on the show in particular. But here, he actually does work off well with The Rock in here. The action sequences are very fun. Rosario Dawson's very good in here. Christopher Walken has a lot of good funny moments in here. It's a really good fun film. It's a fun action movie. It actually underperformed when it came out, if I'm not mistaken. The thing cost $85 million, and it just missed that mark by about $4 million, being at $81 million worldwide, which basically kind of shut down a sequel, which I'm okay with, honestly, because especially now when they try to do sequels 20 years plus later, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't work out very well. So it doesn't really bother me that we never got a sequel for this, because this is just good enough on its own. A really fun movie. I can't recommend it enough. It's a good film. The Rock is great. Sean William Scott's great. Peter Berg's great as the director. The Rundown. So, let's go ahead and move on to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. We go from a romantic comedy to a romantic comedy, if you will, with Under the Tuscan Sun. Kind of similar to another Diane Lane movie that came out later in the decade, Nights Will Danthe. You have Diane Lane as a recently divorced writer who buys a villa in Tuscany on a whim, hoping it will lead to a change in her life. And the change in her life is a new man in her life. And kind of like with The Rundown, chaos and hilarity ensues. And what you get here is pretty much what you expect from the trailers for this. I mean, it's a simple romantic comedy where you have Diane Lane, falling in love with somebody. You gotta have all those moments where, like, it's like there's a third act breakup, and then they gotta get back together at the end. Nothing really that new or extravagant here, except for a good view of the city of Tuscany. I mean, it does work very nicely with the cinematography in general, but other than that, though, the rest of the movie is kind of generic. There's nothing really that funny about it. The romance is not really all that engaging in general, and it's just okay for what it is. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too incredible. Very short review for this one, so that's Under the Tuscan Sun for you. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Ben Stiller and Drew Barrymore, starring in Danny DeVito's Duplex. Definitely not one of the early signs of a promising movie with a trailer like that that's kind of all over the place. It doesn't really have an idea of what the hell they're trying to accomplish here, but you got Ben Stiller and Drew Barrymore. They're a young couple who believes they have found the perfect home to start a family in. There is just one problem, though. An elderly tenant is staying upstairs and won't move out. Alex and Nancy desperately try everything to convince her to leave, but she refuses to move. And soon their dream home becomes the home of nightmares. And this is directed by Danny DeVito, and it doesn't feel like a Danny DeVito directed film. At least with something like Death to Smoochie, which, did he write that too, or was that somebody else that wrote it? Okay, it was somebody else that wrote it. I thought he wrote that one as well. But when Danny DeVito isn't having a hand in the script in general, and he's just directing a film written by somebody else, and he's not really given an opportunity to really put his spin on it. The film really does suffer for it, even though they got a good writer here, Larry Doyle, who's done a lot of work for The Simpsons, a lot of work for the Looney Tunes cartoons. I mean, there is a fun concept here, but it could be like a mix between Throw Mama from the Train and The Money Pit, but it never goes that dark route that Danny DeVito is so well known for. The funniest scene in the whole movie is in the trailer where Ben Stiller is getting blown away by the oven light, like he's getting blasted across the room. That's not a good sign if you're showing that in the trailer alone. Maybe not alone, but in the trailer, it's the one selling point that makes you go like, okay, that's actually really funny. Let's see what else they do. And they never do anything that clever or funny with it. I mean, it's a film that just has so much potential to it, and it just feels like a film that Danny DeVito really needed his hand in the script for this, to really put his stamp on how to tell this story and make it not feel like something he's done before, because it does feel a lot like Throw Mama from the Train, like a retread of Throw Mama from the Train, except Throw Mama from the Train actually had balls to it and actually did a lot more funny things in that film than they do in this movie. You also got this subplot with Harvey Fierstein, Justin Theroux is in here, James Ramirez. So there is a good cast involved in here, and there are good ideas, just not enough execution there to keep the film afloat and make it something unique and different, and it feels more like just a retread of stuff we've seen done to death so many times beforehand. And this is the last thing Danny DeVito directed. I mean, this is the last thing he ever directed as a feature film. He did direct a short film, I should say, about 13 years later. But other than that, he hasn't directed a movie since this. And to go out on this note, it's unfortunate because Danny DeVito still is a good director, and there is still a lot of potential what he could do as a filmmaker. But, I mean, it just doesn't show here in this film. This just feels like a film he just took a quick paycheck on, hoping for the best, and not given the opportunity to come in and change the script around. And that hurts him in the long run. It's a film that has some good ideas to it, but never really exceeds those expectations. It just becomes a direct kind of a film. So that's a skip on this one. So with that said, let's move on to our next movie, and that is National Lampoon Presents Dorm Days. One of the worst comedies ever made. Period. I mean, this is a film that's literally trying to sell you on the sex appeal, and that's it. There's nothing clever, there's nothing funny here. I'll tell you about the plot of the movie, but I don't think I really need to do that. But as Christmas break approaches, the dormitories at Billingsley University are restless with sex-crazed students. Although eager to relinquish his burdens on virginity, Booker, played by Chris Owen, has thus far failed in his endeavors. His charitable older brother Styles, played by Patrick Renna, does the sensible thing and hires a prostitute to usher Booker into the realm of manhood. However, some misunderstandings complicating this procedure, prompting sophomore shenanigans. In addition, you have people like Tatiana Ali, who's probably the biggest name in the film, honestly. Next to that, Danielle Fishel from Boy Meets World, Topanga. Cameron Richardson, who would have a great career starring in stuff like Supercross and Alvin and the Chipmunks. I can't even finish that sentence without laughing. Like, a lot of these actors in here they're just not really, they're not really saving this material. I mean, this is one of those movies that's trying to be the next Van Wilder. It's trying to be the next Animal House, the next big college film. And it really is not. Like, it's one of those movies where it has the nudity in there, but you know what? We have this thing called the internet, and that means you can go and look for those moments anytime, and you shouldn't be wasting your money watching this garbage. It's one of those. They made a lot of these movies back then. National Lampoon did, but they were trying to recapture some of that old magic. And I was the sucker that bought into most of them. I sucked myself into this one. I bought myself into Replicate with Eugene Levy and Ali Landry, which was not that great. What was the other one? There was one more I think I saw. Adam and Eve with Emmanuel Shrieky. None of those movies worked. Even the ones they made for TV. Like, there was a TBS Thanksgiving movie they did with Bryan Cranston and the mom from Lizzie McGuire. That was not that good. And like, National Lampoon just fell off the map. Really, after a long period of time with Animal House, Vacation, and then they tried to come back with Van Wilder, and that was a success. And then nothing of value came from it. And this is one of those films that really is not anything worthy of your time. Like, the jokes don't work. The sex doesn't really sell out all that much. The writing is not that great. The acting is not that great. It just what didn't work. It just did not work as a whole. It's a film that I remember not liking after I was looking forward to it, and I don't. I immediately regret ever watching this movie, and I've never seen any of the other National Lampoon Dorm Days films because there was apparently a trilogy of them. Even though the last film was originally the third film in the series, but they reworked that as a standalone film. But it's the same movie as these films. It's got the same people involved in it. It's the same writing team, the same directing team. It's the same movies in general, and it's just like, yeah, this is just not worth it. And you got to be kidding me! Like, these are the same. You want to know what the writers of this? Pat Casey and Warren Miller. You know what else they did that I just saw? These guys did Sonic the Hedgehog, both the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. I mean, kind of like with Soul Plane, you can't believe that anybody really survived this, but lo and behold, the two writers of this movie survived this and went on to actually have legitimate careers writing the Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and also Violent Night too. So they got out. They got out from this garbage, unlike everybody else did. So good on you guys, and you probably made that the best decision you could have ever done. So yeah, I just saw that. I was literally about to go back to the page with all the movies I'm looking at here, but yeah, that just really took me by surprise that these guys did Sonic the Hedgehog and Violent Night, which are awesome movies, and this is just not. So let's go ahead and finally get to wrapping this up here. Let's talk about Pray for Rock and Roll. This is another one you used to see a lot when you went to Blockbuster or your local video store. You'd see that cover of I think, is it Gina Gershon? I think it's Gina Gershon. Like, she's just standing there posing with, like, her blouse half open, like the boobs are sticking out a little bit. Then you see her belly button. Like, I used to see that a lot during a Blockbuster video, and I thought to myself, I mean, there could be something in here, but it's just something I never really had any intentions of ever watching. And when I finally did, it's not what I expected. Gina Gershon plays the front woman for Clam Dandy, an all-girl punk rock band in Los Angeles on the verge of turning 40. The band, which includes bassist Tracy, played by Dre DeMatteo, lead guitarist Faith, played by Lori Petty, and drummer Sally, played by Shelley Cole, has been scrapping for a buy for over a decade without managing to land a good record deal. Jackie must decide if she wants to keep plugging away at dreams of stardom or to throw in the towel and divert herself full-time to the tattoo parlor where she works at. Along the way, the women are rocked by personal tragedies that threaten to break up the band before they get their last shot at success. I mean, if you're working at a tattoo parlor and a rock band, you haven't made it as a successful rock band, tattoo parlor probably will be the way to go. I mean, I've seen tattoo parlors be pretty successful, so there is more of an opportunity there if you're not doing well as a punk rock band. But to the movie's credit, I didn't expect too much from it, but I got a little bit more than I could have bargained for. I thought the film overall was good. I thought the music was pretty good. The visual look of the film was pretty good. The actresses who play the band, they're pretty good as well. It does have those formulaic tropes. It can be melodramatic at times. It seems like we've seen these cliches done to death so many times already, but it helps when you have a guy that was previously the music supervisor for stuff like Malcolm X and Hedwig and the Angry Itch, working on the film here, and Gina Gershon really does give it her all in this movie. I think this was kind of the start of a second renaissance for her after what happened with Showgirls. She wasn't really getting a whole lot of work here, and this film really kind of sets the tone for potentially a comeback for her, and it does work very well. I thought the film worked fine for what it was doing. I thought it was a lot better than I thought it had any intention to be. Not a classic by any means necessary, but I am glad I finally got to see it and give it a chance that I would probably have never done 20 years prior. But I thought the film worked. I think it's one that works fine for what it is. For a one-time watch, it's worth it. But I don't know if I'd watch it anymore after that, though. Just my initial thinking on that. So that is Pray for Rock and Roll. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll jump into October next time around with Jack Black leading off in the Richard Linklater comedy School of Rock. We also have Denzel Washington in the thriller Out of Time. Not one of his better movies, but we'll delve into that one and see if it really is as bad as I'm making it out to be. But we also have, lastly, Wonderland with Val Kilmer and Lisa Kudrow. I talked about this when we talked about Marcy X. She did actually make she made a movie that kind of reprised herself after starring in that horrible movie that was Marcy X. So we'll take a look at those three movies next time around. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the place on the next page. Check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.